Hey everybody, Just Intuitive Angel Healer here with your Grounded. Thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to another episode of Telling Stories by the Sea. This is my online writer meet and greet, and this is episode number 9. I'm so excited to have all these fabulous authors, published authors with me. Today, we are bringing you a very special guest, Nicole L. Paquin. She is a writer of the series Sophia Madison. Hi, how are you today, Nicole?
Hi, I'm great. I'm actually by the sea and it's really stormy over here today.
Well, I'm
But,
jealous.
but it keeps me from getting distracted, so I'm staying inside and working.
You're in San Diego.
Yes, I am. Southernmost town before you hit Mexico. So I am way, way south in this beautiful little beach town, and I just love it.
Awesome. I used to live out in San Diego. It was a very interesting year because that's when the economy took a plummet, and I think gas was like $15 a gallon or something crazy out there. But I always love San Diego because it was very. I love the weather. I love the people. I really miss the people. Everybody's always like, no worries, and that's my favorite, one of my favorite sayings. So we're gonna get into your book right here. And you published, because this is all about celebrating the author's journey, and you have created the series Sophia Madison. Tell us a little bit about this series, what your inspiration was to create it.
Sophia Madison is such a great character that I just couldn't do one book about her. She's someone we can all relate to. She's adventurous and she's successful in her journeys for the most part, but she also stumbles and falls along the way. She's imperfect. She makes the same mistakes that everybody makes out there, and she suffers the consequences, but she's always also able to constantly bring herself back on her feet and carry on with the next adventure. So there's always many, many to tell. Yeah. And she's an empath, intuitive, and this book it's called Sophia Madison and the Voice Within, and it's so you get to hear the voice within, all of her internal thoughts, the things that come to her. Where she gets into trouble here is her inner voice has always been right, but just for the weekend she decided to ignore it and have a good time while she was in Las Vegas visiting at a friend's wedding. So the the excitement ensues, and she meets a lot of really interesting characters along the way. One especially being a handsome Englishman that she encountered at the check-in line of her hotel when she had first gotten there, and they just keep crossing paths and catching wind of each other, but they just never meet up until one night, the last night they do, and all bets are off.
A fun fiction story.
So fun. I do take a lot of my personal life and put it into my work. I think a lot of authors do. I had a similar experience. It just called to me to write about it, and this is the story that actually inspired me to get into writing books. I started writing when I was very young. I was a known storyteller from a very young age, about 8 years old, and then I won this. I forgot all about it until recently. Won this writing competition when I was 13 years old, and it was so weird. I remember writing it, and it was like somebody was channeling through me. It didn't come from me. The subject that I wrote about was so dark, and I can't believe I won because it was so dark. And I'm just a kid who had never experienced anything so dark. I have no idea where it came from, and I feel like these characters, they channel through me. I don't know from where they come sometimes, and they lead me on these incredible paths, and then I get to, you know, bring them to their realities, and it's a lot of fun, and it's rewarding when people read it and enjoy it and relate to it and take away from it something that might make them feel better that day about themselves or what they're going through or what they've been through, because they read that other people make the same mistakes as well.
How long, because everybody always says they want to write a book. Now, how long did it actually, the writing process take you?
Well, this initial book took about 6.5 years. I didn't, my education wasn't in creative writing and novel writing. So I went back to school, and so I used this as my pet project to for like almost every homework assignment or whatever. I kind of chipping away at it, and it kept evolving until I had it finished. And even when I had it finished, I had to rewrite it a million times. And that's just how it is. The writing process is the hardest thing you'll ever do. But it's passion that drives you to do it. And now that I know the process, and now that I know how to do it. Hi, CJ.
Which CJ popped in. She's one of our writers.
Take me about a year from beginning to end in the publishing realm of things, because once you finish the book, writing the book's the easiest part. Nobody tells you that, because if you're a self-published author, an indie author, then you have to learn how to have it edited, and then you have to edit it yourself, and then have it edited again, and then have it formatted, then have a cover designed, and then have put it on, and then you have to market it. So there's the publishing part of it, the marketing part of it, and the writing part of it. So there's 3 sections, and it's a lot of work, but it's really rewarding.
Get self-published, but if you don't know what you're doing, there are a lot of traps that you fall into, and a lot of other people, they always show up with shiny little glittery things to offer you, and they're like, let me help you, and you're like, no thank you, slime ball. Because there's always somebody out there offering you the grass is greener on the other side. But CJ Ives she said, Nicole's passion as an author is amazing, and her ability to bring a story to life will have your mouth watering. CJ has her own show, The Author's Porch, and I love her show too. I'm going to be there on my birthday, or not my birthday, but close to my birthday, because when I interviewed her, I made a deal that I would be creating my own book by February, or at least have it where it's pretty close in the process. Because that's the whole thing, is we keep all our stories in here, or we're so traumatized and programmed to not share anything that we keep it all bottled inside.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wonder why America is so sick, it's because nobody talks about anything. Everybody keeps it all bottled in, and everybody pretends everything's awesome. And I feel like America, half the time, we're just sitting, like the flames are around us, everything's on fire, and we're just like, yeah, everything's great. Yeah, nothing's wrong here, because nobody ever dives in. And I noticed that writers tend to do this. We tend to have a better expression now. And it's funny, because a lot of writers most of them are introverts. Most of us are. We don't like being on stage, on camera, or anything. But when you get us writing, oh boy, like we'll get you and tell you things that you're like, how did it come out of you? Now, how does this personal experience in your own life, how do you use your book to help, it's a form of self-care when you can express yourself through written word, and you can create a story, and especially when one that everybody's interested in. Because when I was a kid, I liked to read the Dawn series. That was like the first series I ever got into, but I was kind of upset the ending. Like, I didn't expect all that. If you've ever read the Dawn series, I didn't expect it to be about a family. Well, it's about, I'm not going to ruin it, but I just didn't expect the twist. Plot twist. I didn't expect it, because I was 14 when I read it. But tell us a little bit more about your book, and how you've used your own source of grief in your own life to form this series.
I think we've all experienced heartbreak in our lives on several levels. There's I've experienced the death of my mother. I've experienced the passing of my sister. I've been left by the man that I loved. So, and that was really hard to get through. And it was so many years ago. It was almost a decade ago I experienced that. And once I got through it, then I hear my girlfriends talking about them going through the same experience, and I could totally relate to what they were going through, and that I I didn't have the answers for them, and I know there were no answers for me when I was going through something like that. And I don't know what happened when I put pen to paper. It's almost like I came up with the answer for me to move on from something like that. But in doing so, in putting it all out there, and that's one of my tags, I am not afraid to put it all out there, the good, the bad, the ugly. I'm so honest, because if you're lying to people about the human emotion, and you can do that through fiction, you can do that through basically a lie, you know, there's an honesty that comes through that people will relate to and understand. And so when they feel the pain with you, and they, as a writer, and you have the ability to take people down the path of total devastation, and then the path to redemption and triumph. I think that it really resonates with people. I've had girlfriends that I haven't seen or spoken to, you know who you are, in 20 years, and even relatives that I haven't seen since I was a child. I had an aunt of mine call me. She's 80 years old. I haven't spoken to her since I was 12. She called me last night and said, I read your book. But I've had people, like girlfriends, call me up and she goes, oh my God. She's like, I can't believe you went, that, did you go through that? Did you really go through that? I'm like, well, parts of me did, yes, but of course it's a fiction story. It's made to entertain women. But it's also made to inspire them as well. And if I can help somebody get back up off the couch and put bonbons down and go out for a walk on the beach or go for a swim, or just keep swimming, like they say, then I've done my job. And or just forget about what's going on around them for an afternoon or a couple evenings. Just check out and get involved in the story, something that they can relate to and understand, that and see through my writing that these are real emotions that went into this book.
Uh, there's a Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson made a movie. It's my favorite movie because he gets
My
together
favorite
with her
movie
young.
too.
Yeah, when he
Yeah,
sees at the beginning they get together, he
something
gets together with her
something
younger daughter, and then he
gratitude.
ends up dating her
Yeah,
mom, which is Diane Keaton, and they're both 60. Okay, he's got
and
himself
she's
like a little 20-year-old girl. So, but it's funny because they
yeah.
have this whole drama that happened with them, and she ends up turning her heartbreak, and so she's crying for 2 weeks in the movie. She's just
I
crying and
love
typing
that
and
scene with
crying and typing, and
crying or
that's
tears are
I
dropping
laugh
on the
because
manuscript.
that's like the best. That's when the best emotions come, and I have noticed it is a freeing thing when I'm just really having a bad day. That's when I know I got stories inside of me, because I can come up with a poem like that and it could cut to you deep. And I was
Mhm.
like, whoa, where did that come from? And when I was younger, how you said you people viewed your stuff as you viewed it as a little dark. I remember when I was younger, it's funny, like
Mhm.
we always had to, we were made to write in English class. I thought it was the stupidest thing. I'm like, back then you had to journal, and I was like, I don't want to journal to you. I'm not going to put my real thoughts and feelings in here. So
Right.
I would write, because she would give us the other option of, because we had to have writing time, and I was like, whatever, because you're in middle school and you're like, you're not really into it. But I would write poems. Well, what's funny is I would write all these poems, and because I didn't have, I had a good childhood, but it was, my life's always been interesting. So when I put these thoughts down, everybody
What?
judged me and told me, I'm going to have to go get you help. I'm like, why? And they're like, you're not mentally stable. I'm like, well, thank you. You'll never be reading my writing again, because that's what they thought. And so it's funny how people can do that with you. And that's where a lot of people are afraid to put their writing out there. And I am one of those people that put it out there like it is, because people don't understand that shame that I got when I was 12. I'm going to be turning 40 here in a month. And I still carry that sometimes, that
Welcome to the club.
what are people going to think of me? Nobody wants to hear this. They're all going to judge me. And it's funny that I'm learning as a mom too, not only on my spiritual journey, but as a mom, maybe we should learn to stop crushing the creative process of kids. And maybe when we read something, maybe talk to them. And it's getting better because I grew up in the 90s and school was a totally different. I'm sure you understand that too. School was a totally different place, and you could do things in the 90s that you can't do now. And teachers, this writing process now, 6.5 years, I am high five, by the way, for getting it done, because that's the biggest thing. It doesn't matter how much time it takes. Your book, it just matters that you got your book out there. What audience is it geared for? And I also wondered if you could share a little insert with us.
It's geared toward the Sex and the City, Bridget Jones fans. It also has, so it's not for the very young woman, because this story is about a 40-year-old woman. It's not a 39, 40-year-old woman. It's not about a young woman. It's about a woman going into the second phase of her life. So, you still a young woman, still beautiful, still adventurous, still single. Yeah, it's definitely geared, that it's told in the first person. It's narrated in the first person, just like Sex and the City is, just like Bridget Jones is. There's also a little bit, I don't know, before the pandemic happened, there was an element of uh, Bravo centricity in it. The Bravo network were several shows that inspired some of the destinations that these characters go to. She's a little quirky. So she's watching stuff on TV and she's like, I want to go there. I want to do that. I want to do that. That looks fun. And, ziplining in Catalina, go see reality stars serve you dinner in Hollywood, that kind of stuff. She liked it. A lot of people do. So she does these things. And so that's the audience. People who like the guilty pleasure television, the guilty pleasure reading. It's definitely geared towards women. I have had some male readers and they've enjoyed it. They really have. And they've even identified with some of the situations in the book. But it is geared towards women.
Awesome.
All of my writing is.
So, CJ put, I can't wait to read your books, Jess, and your journey is inspiring. Thank you, by the way. I know I'm always here for you, and I appreciate that too, by the way, CJ. And I'm just excited that that's why I created this whole series, is so I know that I'm passionate about writing, and because my whole karmic lesson is that I've always kept it to myself because everybody's always made me feel like they didn't want to hear me. So that's why I am now creating this whole thing, so all of us writers that have a story in us can get it out there and share it with the world. What is some guidance? We're about to wrap this up. What is some guidance that you could give for that writer out there that is wants to do it, but the whole process is overwhelming? And I would say my first thing is, getting it out of my head, getting past the ego is my first thing. We all can't get past that. Nobody wants to read from you. So why are you even do this? How did you push past that and go, hey, even though it took me this long, it doesn't matter. What matters is that I got it done.
It's a passion-driven endeavor. And if it's in you, you'll know. If you get stunted, that's okay. Just, take a break and keep going when you're ready to keep going again. I do have actually an excerpt I can read for you if you'd like.
Okay, that'd
Do we
be
have
fine.
time? I can read you the blurb on the back and let you know what the book is about. Sophia Madison just needed a break. A little getaway to let her hair down and have some fun. Her best friend's wedding in Las Vegas was the perfect opportunity. She arrives alone, instantly feeling the city's electricity, and draws in exactly what she's been craving, an adventure. Throughout her stay, Maddie catches glimpses of a handsome stranger, an Englishman she encountered while in the check-in line of her hotel. On her last night in Vegas, they finally meet and all bets are off. One night, his suite. It was all so exciting. But when Cullen flew home and Maddie returned to California, she was sure it would end there. However, not everything that happens in Vegas stays there. And exactly 1 week later, with her heart pounding, Maddie finds herself picking him up at the train station of her hometown in San Diego. After a passionate week together, the two become attached and spend the better part of a year making and falling in love. But something wasn't right, and even though her inner voice had never been wrong, Maddie refused to listen to its warning.
I love
And I
it.
have one more. It's only a paragraph. Calypso music followed us as we perused the shops and galleries of Seaport Village. The plinkety-plunk of a steel drum bounced off the cobblestone walkways and blended into the sound of a waterfall fountain filled with coins. Cullen stopped. He reached into his pocket and handed me a quarter. Make a wish, my love. Make it a good one for both of us. I closed my eyes and tried to articulate my wish into silent words, but my heart was too heavy. I threw the coin into the fountain, sending only a feeling with it. I cast my burning into that water, my need and my love, my sadness and hope. I sent my heart.
I love it. I love, biggest thing is trying to find a new series to like, because I'm not really into vulgar reading, like the erotic novels and all that. Never been my thing, but some women love those. Like I had a
Oh,
nurse I
yeah.
worked with that had the book 50 Shades of Grey. Not sure why, but she had it at the office, and she was so embarrassed when the doctor accidentally came across it, and he was like, "So, what's this?" And I was like, "Oh my, that would have to be the most mortifying thing. Why you would bring that to work is beyond me." And I just never got into. I guess that's just not my thing. But I do enjoyed a good, like, I like Sex in the City. It's weird because I like Sex in the City, like the adventure, like the way that she breaks up with her boyfriend on a post-it note in the back of a cop car. That's what I think's funny, and that's what I like about your book is that it's got that adventure. It's got that, romance and what's going to happen with them. And I'm excited to check it out. Now, where can people reach you if they want to chat with you to get to know more about the process or about your book?
I have my information listed on my website. It's niclit.com, nic-lit.com.
Okay. And
Um,
that's all up here too.
my information is there. The book is available on Amazon currently. I was wide, which meant I was everywhere, but I decided I needed to pull back for 3 months and just do a focused promotion through Amazon until I got my second and third book out, which will be in the spring. So that I had the series ready to go for people to buy another book as soon as they're finished with this one, if they enjoyed it, so they'd have something to go to. I couldn't do that and be successful wide, so I had to narrow my my efforts, my focus. So starting a reading critique group. It's called the Storytellers Review Room, where people will be submitting their work. There's 4 to 5 people per group, and they'll be analyzing and critiquing with respect to the author's vision and process. They will be critiquing each other's work too, which is one of the best building blocks I can suggest to any writer. If you're having any problems, if you're stuck, if you're in a reading critique group, it gives you accountability and a deadline. So, and then you get the feedback as you're going along. So then you build your craft as you move forward. So doing that too. So there's lots of avenues out there. If you just start poking around on Facebook and start joining author groups and stuff, and there's people in there that will be more than happy to answer your questions. But I'm more than happy to do it anytime.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and being here and sharing your wonderful book. What are some thoughts for any writers right now that are going through COVID? I've met a lot of people that have been very creative to get your book out there. That's the biggest thing is what do you do when you publish the book? That's why I've created this, but what else? What other strategies are there out there for people to if you got the published, that's the thing, you get it published. Now you're just sitting around with a bunch of books. What do you do then?
Right. I have a class I'm pitching to the school that I went to, and they're considering it right now, called "I've finished my manuscript. What do I do now?" And it
Awesome.
just depends so once you have your manuscript, you have to have it edited. But it depends on if you want to go traditional publishing, if you want to go independent publishing and do it yourself, or if you want to do like a vanity publisher. There's a lot of different options out there, and so there's several steps you have to take for each one. But the first thing you need to do is hire an editor. Don't have your friends do it. Don't have your mom do it. Don't have non-professional people edit your work. You have to hire and spend money on an editor to have your work. You cannot do it yourself. No writer can edit their own work successfully because you're not going to see the holes in the plot. I've had to redo my stuff so many times I can't even tell you.
I'm just
even with eyes on it. So
I'm laughing because when I first started out my podcast series, okay, I'm very proud of what I, because I went to college, got my associate's degree, almost my bachelor's. I know how to write. I know how to do punctuation. I was mortified when the guest list came back to me and I did them all out thinking I did everything perfectly, looked over it 900 times. And I misspelled people's names. The worst thing you could ever do is misspell a name. And I did it to like 3 people. And I was like, I give up. I'm done. And I almost was like, I'm never going to, because I couldn't deal with the mortification. I was just mortified because I'm a big thing when it comes to names. Don't mess up someone's name. Don't say it wrong. Don't spell it wrong. And what did I do? I'm going to put you on my first empowerment series. I'm going to spell all your names wrong. And I'm going to put some other people's details in there. And that's the big thing. You can't. And somebody told me that. Don't edit your own stuff. I was like, note to self. I'm going to send this to someone else to look over before I think I got it because I didn't have it. So,
and there's a lot of people out there willing to just help too. So if you do your research out in the realm, you in the writers community, you'll find people that will edit your book for a couple $100. But you get what you pay for. So you have to have them, submit samples of your work to them, and you have to make sure that I can't stress this enough because people will shoot themselves in the foot with a book that isn't edited correctly, and their readers will turn on them, and they'll never pick up another book of theirs ever.
No. You'll be the laughing joke because when I worked for a doctor, he in his note, you have to write in the chart. He put I had a male patient, MAIL. And I was like, what do you got a pen pal? Like it's MAL, you got an MALE patient, not an MIL patient, because that would be a piece of paper and a letter. And I don't think those are the kind of patients that you're treating, sir. And I gave him a lot of crap for it because he's a doctor, and doctors are supposed to not, because it made it in the actual chart. I've read charts that I'm like, where's this grammar? Are you serious? We can't make sure our records are spelt correctly. If you ever review official documents, check out how many edits you'll find on there. But
through this process, I have to reread my favorite books because I know them so well, so I don't nitpick them to death. And now I'm just, since this whole thing happened, I have trouble reading books. I'm actually reading right now. I'm reading like Judy Blume books and the old Sweet Valley High books, Francine Pascal books. There are so many mistakes in those books. I can't even. I'm like, whoa. And
you start picking it up when you start noticing. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Nicole. I hope everybody comes and goes and supports your book. If you want to put it up in the picture so everybody can see what it looks like. Yeah, up. There we go. And so it's Sophia Madison and The Voice Within. Go check it out on Amazon. Here are her links. And you can check her out on Facebook.com/San Diego Writer. Thank you so much again for sharing with us your lovely series. And I hope a lot of people support you on it. Thank you so much for
having me. This was great.
You are so welcome. No problem.
So fun.
We'll be having our next author on Thursday, and a faith-based book. So you want to check that out on Thursday. Have a wonderful day. Love and light, everybody.